he had his awakening experience, he went looking for some sort of tradition that he could operate under. Every time I have an awakening experience, all the traditions are out the window, and I'm in a new condition of now where there is no past and there is no future. What do I have to go on? I'm sure he says he's God. And they got the totems and the taboos all around the island that proclaim him that, and he rules a little kingdom there, and they're building a funeral pyre to him in anticipation of his death. I don't know what that means. Good luck. Now, am I sure he's had a revelation? I'm absolutely sure somewhere in his mind he had a revelation. And he went looking for what it meant. Unfortunately, he went looking for what it meant in an old continuum of past time where you can't stay contemporary with it in your own mind. Because it ain't fair. And the idea that he doesn't let anybody be as enlightened as him, he's always one step ahead of everybody, is such complete horseshit, I don't know what to do with it. Why would I, as an enlightened mind, want to deny somebody enlightenment? That's the part I don't get. Why would you think, oh shit, man, when I woke up, I saw everybody was awake, and I was the sleeping bastard who was last. You guys had no choice but to take 40 winks. I was so slow, I couldn't keep up with you. That's what I saw. I saw that you forgot that you were awake because my awakening was there to help you remember because you guys were already awake. That's what I saw. Now, I got people who find fault in that. But they find fault in everything. Except themselves. There's no fault in them. It's everybody else's fault. And they're good Course in Miracles students who are on the web proclaiming that they're teaching de-addiction. I'm going to go out and proclaim that there are people out there addicted to something, but it ain't me. And I'm going to prove it by showing you those that are addicted, but they ain't me. And I'm going to show you that they taught me to be not addicted, but I'm not grateful to them. They're still struggling and fucking hell. Good luck. I don't understand. Are they forgiven? Of course. Every attack that anyone has ever made on me was only a moment where I could be exposed in myself whether it was true or not. Can you understand that? Whatever people write is true to them. There's shit out there that has absolutely nothing to do with even the history that I could have possibly been. I'm going to say, did you go to my driver's license and find out I was 75? If you went back and watched a movie of my life, the incidents that are saying were part of the movie were never part of the movie. They're made up to prove a point now. Okay, I know that. And when I read them, I'd say, oh, shit, isn't this interesting? Now, how do I rectify it? I rectify it by growing in my own mind an action of forgiveness that shows me what's going on and allows me to be true in myself. Know thyself. I mean, shit, okay. What's the big deal? Now, that means you're not truly enlightened? Come on. How would you know? Do you know what true enlightenment is? Where's the contradiction? See? Now, this is what this is saying. It's time for a moment of integration, and that moment of integration can only take place in you. All healing is forgiveness. In a very broad sense, a total moment of forgiveness has healed the entire condition, and it's all been exacting heaven, and you're just catching up. And the way you catch up is an instance of forgiveness in your own mind, where you see the light, and then in your learning, your willingness to stay current in where that light's leading. Of course it has to rearrange you leaving the space and time. It doesn't have any choice to, because your consciousness is the maker of that. My consciousness is the maker of it. We're participating in a reunion. We're participating in a reawakening. We're participating in a growing recognition. There's great stuff that I read. I read the Bible. I read the Course. I read everything. This guy threw his book out. You can't read it. If you can only read it right now, where is the past in which you threw your book out? I'm not sure I understand that. There is no past. I threw my book out 2 weeks ago. Why can't you guys throw your book out? Now, does that, now, furthermore, does somebody who doesn't throw the book out less holy than someone who does, or more holy? I don't understand it. Edgar Casey, that's one of the things I was going to talk about in Bible today. Edgar Casey read the Bible through every year. He decided when he was like 6, 7, 8, 9, that through some, because he was involved in mystical experiences at a very early age, and he had no idea what to do with them. Luckily, something in him directed him to Jesus, which, to me, that's about the best direction you're going to get in. Luckily, something directed him to Jesus, and what he did is he said, oh, okay, the answer must be in the Bible. So what he decided to do, at whatever age that was, 6, 7, 8, or 9, was read the Bible through every year. But he realized if he was going to be true to his own declaration, that he had to make up for the years that he hadn't read it. So he did. So in the beginning years, when he first started to read the Bible, he went through it several times a year, just so in the course of his life, he would read it once a year. Okay? This is what he did. So by the time he did whatever he did, died, whatever the hell you want to call it, if he had read the Bible once a year, for every year of his life, he read the Bible. If it required him reading it 2 or 3 times in 1 year, he did that just so he could meet the requirement that he put upon himself, not as a limitation because he knew it was part of his learning. Okay? Now, you pick up the text of A Course in Miracles, and Jesus begins to talk about Edgar Casey. I don't find in there Jesus faulting Edgar Casey for reading the Bible every year. You see what I'm saying? Like, obviously, if Jesus was telling us, don't do something, he would say, don't do something. I don't see him telling Edgar, when he talks about Edgar Casey, him saying Edgar Casey, oh, Edgar Casey's problem was he shouldn't have read the Bible. He read the Bible too many times. He held the Bible all his life. He's not saying that. What he said is, actually, Edgar Casey's works, if they were allowed to be edited, and I was put in charge of the editing process, would be the basis for a faith. Do you understand what that means? Jesus is saying that in the information that came through Edgar Casey, there is basis for faith, and they could be faithfully used as a way to enlightenment within yourself to gain or regain the understanding of the kingdom of heaven is within and is within you and all around you. Okay? Now, obviously to me, who loves reading the Bible and loves reading the course, except when I have to. You understand that? I hate to read it when I have to. I love to be able to pick it up. But that doesn't mean I don't. It's like, I gotta go read the Bible, I'll read the Bible. I hate it. But I do it anyway. That's whatever it is. Okay? So now, so what he's saying is, like, I'm not reading down, he's condemning me for reading the course, for holding on to the book, for using the book to teach. That's just, guys like that with authority problems, they want to be the authority, and based on some rule of their mind, make you subject to their rule to prove to themselves that you're a fraud and they're true. That's not what this is about. I've seen lots of guys with true revelation, and I've seen many guys who haven't had revelation but are willing to accept the discipline actually find a moment of truth at the point they accept the discipline. That moment is always gone, and in the new moment there's a reapplication. That's how this works. If it's true entirely, it's true now and it's entirely. Until the action of your mind is something you discover, until, where's Mark here? I got your email. That's the kind of thing. It's like you hear it over and over again between us. You got that? This is the nature of space and time. You come in, and the truth, and I don't know how to teach this. It's like I heard this all my life, sort of. But I heard it at a distance, and I heard it as in a condition of finding myself separate from what was talking it, as what's hearing it. Space and time is that separation. You hear it and you hear it and you hear it. The truth is, people are willing to listen to what the Course says, at least in part, because it says very nice, loving things about them. Oh, you're holy, you're this, you're that. It also says you're a murderer. It also says you haven't accepted forgiveness. It also says your job is to forgive. It also says that you need to heal your mind. But nobody wants to really look at that. My salvation is in being able to look at that because my revelation told me I was whole and perfect. Now, I can read that all the time. Edgar Casey's work could have been the basis of a faith if they'd let it be edited so that it could be faithful at every point and get out some, which is why I'm so emphatic about the idea that, shit, if you're going to use my stuff, it's got to be edited. It has got to be edited. And I don't want to be in charge of the editing process. I don't want that job. That's not my job. That's somebody else's job. I can help after the edit, but I'm not the editor. There's stuff that goes on that's very useful, and the funny part about it is there's stuff that goes on in what it is that's happening when we're not hearing it separately. Because until the moment where it collapses, this is what Mark was saying, until the moment where he actually, even the guy who was here yesterday, Paul David, what he's finally said is, I heard it better because there was a situation in which I needed to use it. Finally, you want a situation in which you need to use it, and then you use what you heard at the point in your mind that you experience need, and something changes. That's the entirety of it. So I killed the mosquitoes when you met me. Maybe I don't. Oh, there he is. He is risen. There. Resurrection in front of your very eyes. Pretty quick, too. Is the mosquito going to fly away and go tell the world that they're going to come and crucify him? Finally, when you apply it in your own mind, there's the truth of it. In my words, everybody's going to find all kinds of conflictual stuff. It's when you eliminate the space and time in a miraculous way, you can never know how that happens. The only way you can know that it happens is by admitting that you're still in space and time. Because there's no place for the miracle outside that admission, because that's where it operates. Now, the interesting thing is, you don't hear it till you hear it, and you only hear it where it's applied, in your own mind. That's the joy of it for me. It's still the joy of it for me. It's what I use to amuse myself. Why not? It's given to me to be happy and enjoy myself. And this can't. One of the most ridiculous ideas is the idea that someone's not enlightened because you don't meet somebody's definition. I don't understand that. Everybody is what light is. Whether their consciousness is the activity of that is another story. The way, the truth, and the light has been given to you, and that's the modality of remaining in the enlightenment of your mind. You don't need to come up with new rules. There's no need to manufacture a new way to do it. You've been very specifically given that way. Jesus' admission that there's basis for a faith in the works of Edgar Casey is spectacular. Because when you look at what he's saying, the idea that you'd have to throw out the book is ridiculous. Every year this guy read the Bible. That's spectacular. As a discipline, it's spectacular. His joy, Edgar Casey's joy, what he looked forward to most in his life, as whatever it was he is, a human coming to his own revelation, was being able every Sunday to go to his church and teach the Bible. It wasn't, when you read what he has to say, what he doesn't say, oh, I was really, his happiest moments are teaching the Bible. They're not being in a trance channeling something. Your happiest moments are not being in a trance channeling something, and your happiest moments aren't necessarily in attempting to stay in a transcendent condition. Our happiest moments are moments when we're going beyond the boundaries that we set and expressing ourself, and including in that expression our brother's self as a light reassociation. That's where the joy is. Now you got people telling me we're addicted to light experiences, and he's got the remedy for the addiction. Oh, going to light is like what addiction is. Come on. How do you experience light separate from forgiveness? If you understand what light is, there is no experience of light separate from an action of forgiveness. Why anyone would find fault with that can only be their definition does not include the whole action of mind. That's all I can say. Does that mean I'm not sitting in some sort of transcendence like Ramana Maharshi, just doing that? Yeah, it means that I'm not doing that. Does it mean that what Maharshi learned isn't true? No, it means that absolutely what Maharshi learned is true. I can't myself, personally, as this thing, stay in my enlightened condition by doing what was his to do. I can only do it by doing what's given me to do. Okay? You guys who are in this are much like me, because this is our time of enlightenment. And in a sense, the tradition of enlightenment is based on the offering of Jesus Christ's teachings to be ye perfect because you are forgiven, and your forgiveness that you're finding is a total forgiveness in yourself. And loving your enemies is the way you grow in life. Now, can someone, look at it this way, to see what this guy was talking about? Is there value in going into someone else's church and trying to win over converts to the teaching? I don't find any value in that. In my terrible twos, I might have insisted that I knew a way that occurred, but in the maturation of it, I understand that what's given to me is what's given to me. Now, does this association allow for people to go through their terrible twos? Of course it does. But it requires something standing in an uncompromising opening of mind to deal with something like that. And finally, you're saying enough is enough because enough is enough. It goes nowhere. It does not want to go with you, with me, with Jesus. It has an agenda that's not willing to tell you about and not willing to fulfill in his own mind. It's like when I looked at it, Morgan wrote to me. There's all kinds of stuff, what he said. The truth is, somewhere in Morgan's mind, how he was different from other guys is, he heard himself give someone advice. He heard himself give advice to someone else. And there came another moment when he was willing to take the advice that he gave to someone else as something he was going to try to implement. And that's not about in New Zealand. That was when he finally went back to wherever he went to Holland and Belgium, and sat there and teaches to empty chairs. The fault isn't in teaching to the empty chairs. The fault is in not listening to your own guidance and think it's for somebody else first. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are guys who got to the point in that evolutionary process who were contemporaries with me, who saw that in themselves, and then just went back to being human and attempt to do it in another way. It's at that point where you finally say, oh, wait a second, I'm saying, man, I got to go out there and do this for myself. You finally do go out there and do it for yourself. Because that's where your integration lies. It's not finding fault with everything that's doing it, thinking it's preventing you. That's not true. There is nothing preventing you from being who you are. Nothing. It's not a possibility. The living up to your own integrity is good to see. Now, that gets you beyond the terrible twos. It may not get you beyond your own cynicism and sarcasm. I don't know. But certainly, it's like there's a step there where that was willing to go out and say, screw this, man. If I think they're preventing me, then I'm going to go someplace where at least I don't think they're preventing me. But I'm going to stay with what I know to be true, and I know I got to give this away. In my mind, that's a step. I support him in taking that step. I knew that it was never not offered him the step in his mind. I also know that I'm not preventing him, and nothing here is preventing him. How the plan works for him is how the plan works for him. You know, and in that, it's like I can see, man, there's a determination. It's like when I look at that, it's true. That mind can get this and true up. A guy who gets to that point, and the funny part about it is, they're both my friends. Right? Some of you guys know Hermes. Hermes at that point got so sick, he was throwing up every day, that he literally had to retreat to back up. So he could, now, what's the difference? Time. The only difference is time. Okay, but remember, and guys who have revelation know there's no delay in eternity. That's true, but delay in time is tragic. It says that, and you can't negate that anymore. This is just sort of interesting. I came across an interesting thing that I wanted to read. Oh, good. Does this make any sense? I don't know if it's any good or not.